Hi there, my name's Courtney and I'm one of the iForge reps. Today I'm going to go through with you a health and safety video on all of our handheld power tools that we have at the moment. So let's get started. So first off we have the pad sander. So pad sander is used to sand pieces. It's quite a low risk piece of equipment. There's a couple of pieces that you need to be aware of. So first off we have this pad, which is a removable piece of sandpaper. You're more than welcome to change these yourself because it is so low risk. Just make sure that it is turned off and unplugged whenever you're doing that. So that's the first one. Then we're going to have a look at our jigsaw here. So jigsaw, as I said, is a lot higher risk than the pad sander. It basically has a reciprocating saw blade at one end, and you need to be very careful when using it. So some of your things that you need to look at is you have a tensioner here for the blade. You need to be aware of what type of blade is in use at the moment. For example, this is a wood blade. If you're not sure, then ask one of our iForge reps and they can advise you on what type of blade, and they can also change the blade over for you. Please don't try and change these blades yourself, as they are quite a dangerous piece of kit. So next we have this guard here, which slides down, and that should always be down whilst the jigsaw's in use. Moving up, we've got a speed gauge here, so that you can change how fast the actual blade moves. That can need to be changed depending on the type of material as well. And then this is just a switch. If you let go, it will stop, and it's just a safety feature. Something that's very important with all of these pieces of kit, with all of the wired ones, is to make sure that that cable is over your shoulder during use at all times. So make sure it's not trailing, it's always over your shoulder whilst plugged in. It just makes sure that it doesn't go through the blade, in which case you could get electrocuted. Any work that you're using it on, just ensure that it's clamped securely. You can use one of these clamps here, or you can use a C-clamp. And if you don't know where they are, please just ask an iForge rep and they'll be able to help you. They'll also be able to help you set your workpiece up so you can do it safely. One of the key things with clamping your work is just to ensure that the line you're cutting on isn't that far away from the table. If it's too far away from the table, the workpiece will vibrate and it can sometimes cause injury. Again, with all the bladed power tools, just to inspect the blade before you use it, just to ensure that it's not cracked or broken in any way. If it is, please don't use it because it could fly off and hit someone and hurt someone. And again, just ask an iForge rep and they'll be able to change that blade for you. So now we'll move on to this belt sander here. So the belt sander, again, it has a cable. So just ensure that the cable is over your shoulder during use at all times. So the way the belt sander works is this used to remove sort of fairly large amounts of material off of wood. So we have a spinning belt on the bottom. At all times whilst it's plugged in, please don't face it upwards. It's an incredibly powerful tool, and it could cause injury. So the way you should hold them, all of these tools they're two-handed tools, so you should always have a firm grasp on them and a solid stance. So on this one, we hold it two hands like this. Again, it has a button. If you release it, it'll stop. Please put a decent amount of weight on it and ensure that everything is clamped. If you see, if I turned this on and had this piece of wood underneath it and it wasn't clamped, it could easily fly off and hurt someone. Again, one of the key things with these is that they do produce a lot of dust, all of these, and they all have extraction on them. As you can see, this extraction piece can fit into the jigsaw as well. So just make sure the extraction's connected, and so that's not going to cause any harm to you whilst you're using it. One last thing with this is, while it's spinning and you're using it, if you stop, just keep your weight on it until it stops spinning and don't lift it up before. Because as I said, it's a very powerful tool and you could easily cause injury to yourself. So that's our belt sander. And the last thing that I'm going to go through at the moment is through this drill. So something that most people are quite familiar with, but just some of the risks involved. So actually, firstly, how it works. So as a rechargeable battery pack, please return these to our charging station that we have set up in the iForge, just so the next user is always charged for them. They slot in and you should hear a clip. And then they can spin in both ways using this red button here. Just push it through and it spins the other way. The main risks involved with these is just is entanglement. So make sure that your sleeves are rolled up whilst using it, any hairs tied back. And then the last risk is when you begin drilling in a workpiece, is that you don't have any kind of guide on it. So you can quite easily get wander with these, and you could easily sort of drill over your hand. So please use a center punch or a bradle or something similar to produce a little notch in your workpiece, and then you can then start drilling safely. So I'm just going to run you through the Dremel now. So this is the Dremel. In the iForge we only use them with abrasive discs. If you do want to use them with any kind of cutting tool, then please ask and speak to one of the iForge reps and we can try and sort something out. So again, one of the key things is just to keep the wire out of the way with any time you're using it. And one of the key things is to check that your tool bit is always tight. And that can be done using the small spanner that's in the Dremel set, and just using this release mechanism here, just ensure that it's tight before you use it. So the Dremel should always be operated with 2 hands again, just like all the other handheld power tools. It has a switch here that can determine how fast it spins. So usually you use the Dremel in a handheld fashion. However, in the iForge we actually have these 2 mounts at the moment. If you want to use them, then please talk to an iForge rep and they can run you through in-person training with each of those just to ensure you're using them safely. But just quickly, whilst using them, just ensure you're using any kind of guards that are in place, and also the use of them both. So this is a press, kind of like a drill press, but for a Dremel. And then this is a routing table that you can use to cut or sand off certain parts of your workpiece. So with all of these handheld power tools, they produce quite a lot of dust, which can be really bad for our users to inhale. And so what we ask you to do is, whenever you're using them and you feel like you're in a very dusty situation, you might be emptying the extraction, or it might just be a very dusty piece of work, please use one of our provided masks, and they'll sort of save your lungs and keep you healthy. Thank you for paying attention to this video. While we're going over the handheld power tools, it's really important for our users to pay attention to all these videos so they understand the risks that they're taking on when they come into the iForge. So thanks.